Hi there everybody, I'm David, and I love all sorts of different RPGs, but I've gotta say, my tried and true, my favorite genre of RPG is easily turn-based RPGs, and there's a ton of them out there, from retro games to modern games, but today I want to go over the 10 best modern turn-based RPGs, and if you like that, please be sure to subscribe because I'm trying my hardest get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. It is my dream goal, and I wish that you would help me out with that by hitting that subscribe button and also smashing that like button too to show your love. And now, let's get started going over some of these great modern turn-based RPGs. Are you a fan of turn-based fantasy RPGs with beautiful pixel art styles and fully customizable character progressions just like I am? Well then I have the game for you. In Guild Saga Vanished Worlds, now out for the PC, you set off to explore the mysterious lands around you by collecting allies from across the continent to battle magical foes and decide the fate of the world. You start off as nothing but like a little small fledgling on your first mission for the Heroes Guild, but then you're unwittingly drawn into a battle for the fate of humanity itself. You don't have to go this all alone though. You go out and you assemble your perfect party where you can choose from all sorts of different races, classes, inclinations, talents, and skills. Whether you want to blend the raw power of a warrior with the healing light of a cleric, or wield the dark forces while constructing mechanical defenses, the choice and the classes are all yours. As you all fight together, your team will forge unbreakable bonds, and your interactions will shape their stories, potentially even sparking romance or igniting some rivalries. So if you think that this is as cool as I do, then be sure to click the links below to wishlist and check out Guild Saga Vanished Worlds yourself. And now, let's get on back to today's video. First up, we have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, released for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC. I first fell in love with this series back with Yakuza Like a Dragon. I mean, how could I not? It was classic turn-based combat, along with a wacky story set in real-world Japan. And because that was such a hit, now all of the adventures following Ichiban will be turn-based too, and what a treat they are! This time, while the story does begin in Japan, it quickly diverts over to Hawaii, where he meets up with another Yakuza staple, Kiryu. Ping-ponging the enemies back and forth between all your party members is just so much fun, as are the copious amounts of minigames, and thankfully here, they are entirely optional, unlike in some other huge AAA RPGs. And while in Like a Dragon, class changing wasn't all that hot or all that useful, here, they've really rebalanced all of them and made tons of them so much more useful. All told, this is an absolute gem and a must-play for any RPG fan. Number 2. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, released for the PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PC. Ever since I was first introduced to this series with Revelations the Demon Slayer back on the Game Boy Color in the mid-90s, I have loved some SMT. It's just so different, unique, and hard. I mean, you're fighting off gods and demons here, don't expect a walk to the park. And while the original release on the Switch was one of the best exclusives on the Nintendo system, now with Vengeance it's going multi-platform, and it promises to really flesh out the entire story with an all-new path that you can take, promising you tons of new content, as well as all previously released DLC put in there. Not only that, but the battle system, demon fusion, and field exploration have also been streamlined too, with a ton of quality of life improvements. So this here is the definitive way to play. Number 3. Monochrome Mobius Rights and Wrongs Forgotten, released for the PS4, PS5, and PC. I cannot tell you how much I love this game. I could go on about it for like a year and a day, but I'm just going to tell you this. Modern day Grandia. So if that isn't enough for you to get into your car and run on down to your video game store, I don't know what else to say. Well, maybe this. Traditional turn-based combat. Open regions filled to the brim with treasures and on-screen encounters. Tons of lively full towns. Side quests galore and secrets to find, not to mention a lovable cast of characters, and a really imaginative world to explore. Whenever I picked this game up, all I knew that it was a turn-based spin-off of the Utora Ramono visual novel series, and I thought, ugh, this is just going to be like 90% visual novel and 10% battling. But I was so wrong. This is like going back in time and playing the RPGs of yesteryear, and to me, there is really no higher praise than that. Number 4, 8-Bit Adventures 2, released for the PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PC. Call me old, I am, so I don't really care, but games like this just bring me straight on back to my childhood. I grew up with the NES and games like these, but truth be told, every time that one of these indie games is inspired by the NES, they're actually a whole lot more advanced than whatever the NES had. It's really more like the SNES game, but with an NES coat of paint. But either way, I still love them. And this features everything that I know and love, like random encounters, turn-based battles, a world map to explore, traditional dungeons, treasures all over the place, and a robust equipment system that isn't just like bare-bones weapons and accessories, kind of like the big boys want to give you these days. This game might be a sequel, but you definitely do not have to play the first one in order to enjoy this outing. Number 5, The Secret of Veronas, released for the PC. While 8-Bit Adventures 2 was inspired by the NES, here, The Secret of Veronas is inspired by the Game Boy, more specifically the Final Fantasy Legends series, that were pretty much the only RPGs on the little gray brick for the better part of a decade, really. And believe me, when there's only about like 5 or so RPGs on a system, you get to know them inside and out and play them like the palm of your hand. And I played the Final Fantasy Legend games like a million times, and this really is a love letter to all 3 of them, featuring humans, mutants, robots, and monsters, all of whom you can mix and match into your party while exploring a ton of different worlds, and of course, climbing up a tower to paradise along the way. This features turn-based combat, the ability to have on-screen encounters, and being able to charge up all of your weapons at the end, and not just for the robots either. If you're like me and you feel like the Saga series peaked back on the Game Boy, then this here is the game for you. Number 6, Saga Emerald Beyond, released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, mobile, and PC. Speaking of the Saga series, let's talk about the latest entry. While I definitely love those Final Fantasy Legend games, the Romancing Sagas, and even Saga Frontier, we've kind of gotten kind of weird and off onto the deep end in the PS2 era, but it looks like Square Enix has course corrected, and they're taking the best of both worlds by combining the combat system of Saga Scarlet Grace along with the racial system of Saga Frontier and the multiple connected worlds of Final Fantasy Legend 2. Then they threw them all into a blender, and this little gem came out. And while there aren't towns or dungeons to explore, there is plenty of story, and every single time that you enter a world, a new storyline takes place. The game was actually designed to be replayed multiple times, so they really did go out of the way to ensure that you don't have to kind of repeat the same scenarios over and over again. So if you want to get back into Saga, this here is the game to do it. Number 7, Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince, released for the Nintendo Switch. I have always thoroughly enjoyed the Dragon Quest series, and Dragon Quest IV is one of my favorites among them, and I love this new take on the formula. Rather than just having to explore some randomly generated dungeons with little to no story, here we actually get fully fleshed out worlds, as well as a story that ties into a mainline game. And rather than seeing those events that we all know and love from the hero's point of view like we did the first time around, here you see the world from the villain's point of view. And you also get to explore much more the underworld, which was tiny in the NES game, but here it is massive, with each echelon housing its own unique monsters, tons of treasures, towns, and dungeons. Not to mention that they all change around the seasons too. There is a lot here. And I love the new direction that the Monster series is going in, where treasure is expanded on the backstory of Dragon Quest XI, and this is expanding on the backstory of 4. So let's really do hope that they do more games like these, exploring a story that we all know and love, but from the villain's perspective. Number 8, Auden Chronicle 100 Heroes, released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC. Now, here is a game that really does need no introduction, as it was first introduced on the Kickstarter, where it was a smashing success. This here is Suikoden 6 in all but name. So do with that information what you will, but I am telling you, this game just blew me away. I felt like I was back on the PS2 playing another great Suikoden game, because everything that I love from that great series is here. From the 6-person battles, to the unique leveling system, the front and back rows, the quirky characters, the runes, the blacksmith, and even the glorious world map. If you are a fan of old school RPGs at all, then you really do owe it to yourself to check this one out, because it is worth every single last penny. And don't let anybody tell you that it's short either, because that's fake news. The main storyline alone will take you upwards of 30 hours, and double that if you want all the characters too. There is a ton of things to see and do here. Number 9. Persona 3 Reloaded. Released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC. Oh look, it's the Persona series, who's reared your little head again. And while I personally do have a love-hate relationship with this series, loving the exploration and the combat, but hating that whole life sim, let's go do after-school stuff, all told, I still will say that this here is a great game. I mean, how could it not be? It single-handedly put the Persona series on the map back in 2008, and it was the game that got me into the series too. So maybe it does hold some nostalgia, but for good reason. Here you play as a crew of misfit students who inexplicably are not affected by the Dark Hour, where everybody else just kind of turns into a coffin. So you set off to explore Tartarus, a randomly generated dungeon, to fight off the demons and get to the bottom of the mystery of this lost hour. Featuring a host of quality of life improvements, this is definitely the definitive way to play this classic. And number 10, Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door, released for the Nintendo Switch. The Mario RPG franchise is kind of a strange one. While it began as a traditional RPG, it quickly turned into spin-off city, with the Paper series as well as the Mario and Luigi series, but we haven't really heard hide nor hair of the Mario and Luigi series since, portable gaming became a thing of the past, but the Paper series seems to still be going on strong. And much like the aforementioned Saga series, the best Paper Mario games are the first ones, with this entry, originally released back on the GameCube, easily being the best Paper Mario game ever created. Here, you have to master timed attacks while using your badges to impress the audience on the stage of combat, while switching out tons of different partners on your quest to keep the nefarious X-Nauts from getting the treasures behind the Thousand-Year Door. So that's it for 10 more great modern turn-based RPGs. Remember, if you missed the first part, please be sure to go on back and watch the previous video. It is linked in the video description below, and please do also let me know what your favorites are. Let's get a discussion going on here, and let's all talk and chat about it, because I'm always in the comments too. And if you like what I do here on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon site for early access to my videos, as well as behind-the-scenes photographs. The link to it is over in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.